there! I've made this YouTube video to try to explain the ending of the manga, The Girl from the Other Side. I've seen some people online who have finished the manga but didn't totally grasp how the ending played out, so I'd like to lay down my understanding of the last book in this video. So, spoilers ahead for the whole manga. I'll start by explaining the relationship of the two gods and how it created the humans and the outsiders. The creation story is told to the reader twice, once in book 1 in Shiva's storybook she asks teacher to read to her, and once in book 9 by the Holy Father to the king in the secret storage room beneath the church. The explanation in Shiva's storybook is a piece of revised history that paints the human's god as the divine protector of the humans from the god of darkness who tries to oppress the humans. The god of the humans, who is called the god of light, curses the god of darkness into a hideous monster, and in retaliation, the god of darkness transforms the curse into something it can inflict onto other creatures. The god of light became the insider, building the walls of the kingdom to keep out the god of darkness, the outsider, and everyone the god of darkness curses. In book 9, the Holy Father explains to the king that the god of light, who can give revelations every 7 days, has explained to the church leaders the true history of how the planet was formed. The god of light and darkness existed before the planet was created. The god of light created the sun. The god of darkness stole the sun. Darkness fell, but where light remained, day was born, and shards of light created the stars in the darkness. The god of light created the sky, but the god of darkness stole the sky, leaving only fragments that became the land. The creation of the earth was equally the god of light creating as much as it was the god of darkness taking. This process culminated with both gods giving a part of themselves to create the first human. The god of light gave its flesh to make the flesh of a human, and the god of darkness gave its flesh to be the soul of the human. The two gods then began to fight for control of the creation of life. The god of light took most of the god of darkness's body, which it used to create life to the human race. In the fight, the god of darkness took the god of light's whole body. It isn't stated in the 9th book when the god of light cursed the god of darkness, but because the god of light is creating souls out of the body of the god of darkness, it is most likely after taking most of the god of darkness's body. Without a body, the god of light only has the power to grant revelations. In the god of darkness's possession, the god of light's body was also cursed, and the god of darkness began to create outsiders using the body parts of the god of light's body. Humans, with the body of the god of darkness inside them, acting as the soul, and outsiders created by the god of darkness using the body of the god of light are explicitly two different creatures. Humans then built the kingdom's walls to prevent coming into contact with the curse, which the god of light doesn't have the power to fix without its body. Flash forward to the flashback of Albert's backstory in book 10, and the god of light decides to call out to the fragments of its own body, the outsiders. The outsider that answered strolled through the kingdom up to Albert's town, where the whole town was massacred to stop the spread of the curse. Albert was shot, but not killed, and his body was dumped on the other side of the walls, where an outsider comes upon him. Albert reaches up to the outsider and asks for help. The outsider will later reflect in book 11 that it felt sympathy for Albert, so the outsider rips off his head and places it onto Albert's face. It had no idea if it would work or not. It was just spur of the moment thinking. The outsider then took Albert's soul and placed it into its body. Because Albert has what is called a pure soul, it's never explained how or why Albert has a pure soul. The pure soul was able to cleanse the outsider's body of the curse and change it into the body of a human. With the body of the god of light and the uncursed soul of the god of darkness, that outsider turned human is by definition a human. It is likely influenced by Albert's soul that the outsider turns into a version of his newborn daughter, who is then picked up and raised by Auntie thinking that Albert's body wrapped up in the white sheet before he woke up as an outsider was a dead relative of Shiva. Guards began to question where Shiva came from and whether or not Auntie and Shiva were cursed after they moved into the walls of the kingdom. Guards ordered Auntie to abandon Shiva outside of the walls and quarantined Auntie inside a dungeon made for potentially cursed people to determine if Auntie was cursed. Shiva and Albert are reunited and live together until the Holy Father is told by the God of Light to bring Shiva back to the church and to sacrifice her to the God of Light. The God of Light knows she's a purified piece of its body, which it wants back. Just like it's the outsider's responsibility to collect souls from humans to bring back to the God of Darkness so it may start rebuilding its body. The trouble being, outsiders destroy souls they touch by inflicting the soul with their curse, but that doesn't matter to them because they keep trying. Shiva is taken by the guards back inside the walls to Auntie. She's rescued by Albert and the outsiders. Albert and Shiva flee from guards sent after Shiva to the abandoned house of a friend of Auntie's, where Shiva reveals to Albert she's been cursed. Albert is told by an outsider he could steal a soul to repair the parts of the soul the curse had destroyed. Her soul being pure doesn't protect it from being destroyed by the current curse because she's just a regular human. The soul being pure was just to cancel out her outsider's curse. To pause the story here, the soul transfer mechanics seem to work like the soul transfer mechanics from the 2003 Full Metal Alchemist, where you can transfer a soul, but a little will be left behind in the previous body, so the soul will be smaller with every transfer between cursed bodies, because it's passing through cursed bodies, and that's taking a little bit off the soul every time. It has to pass through a cursed body to leave the body, and then to re-enter another cursed body. So Albert isn't able to bring himself to kill another human to repair her soul, so he gives up what is left of his pure soul, which was left behind in the last transfer, that pure soul giving him his long-lasting sentience in his outsider body. After giving up the last of his soul, he becomes a regular cursed human and begins to forget everything and starts turning into a tree. The guards take the opportunity to get Shiva back to the church where the king is to sacrifice her to the God of Light. He doesn't go through with the first ceremonial attempt. Before the second attempt, the king learns the truth that humans are made of both gods and is stabbed by the Holy Father for being a heretic. The king orders the guard, who is friends with Albert when Albert was alive, to release Shiva while the king distracts the Holy Father. The guard friend gets Shiva outside the walls where she finds Albert. While holding Albert's tree hand, she returns most of the soul back to Albert, who begins to feel like a human would again and begins to have his memories return. A little bit of the pure soul in the outsider that is Shiva compels the outsider to stay around Albert as he fights for consciousness. After waking up a second time, Albert questions the outsider, who explicitly says there's a little bit of the soul left in it that is hanging onto the clover in its hand and is controlling where the body goes. After Albert tells the outsider his story, after becoming an outsider and how he remembers meeting Shiva, the remnants of the pure soul tries to throw its body off a cliff to run away from having to tell Albert that that outsider cursed him. The outsider tells Albert it cursed him, and after becoming a human, began to create new memories that buried the consciousness of the outsider. Albert leaves the outsider for a time to think, and the outsider finds him and tells him Shiva can come back if the outsider had his soul, but because of the number of transfers, there's not a lot of the soul left. The outsider gives him 7 days to think about what he wants to do, and the outsider leaves to go to the lake where the God of Darkness is. 7 days was a lie. When the outsider gets to the lake, it goes down to return to the God of Darkness, where it's stopped by Albert. The remnant of the soul goes into the outsider's hand to grab onto Albert's hand, but the outsider pops off the hand and Albert and the hand go back up to the surface. Before the outsider returns to Mother, the soul remnant speaks to the outsider. In this conversation, the outsider admits to loving Albert. The soul tells the outsider that it is Shiva just as much as the soul is, and they swim back up to the surface to Albert. The outsider asks Albert what he wants to do, and Albert makes a decision. The ending is up to interpretation, but I'm gonna guess that they split the soul between them. And that's my interpretation of the manga. If you came away with something different, I would love to hear it in the comments.